Tuff-N-Uff is back on UFC Fight Pass this Friday night, and it's got a heavyweight title fight in its main event. And I'm pleased to be joined now by one half of that affair. It is Jamal Pogues, the UFC veteran, headlines this Tuff-N-Uff show in the combat sports capital of the world, Las Vegas. Of course, again, watch it right here on UFC Fight Pass. Jamal, how are you?
Good, man. I'm good. I'm great.
Let's talk about your year. It's been a little bit of a up and down year. You got released from the UFC. You took some time off. You come back. You pick up the first submission win of your career. What was that 6 months off like for yourself, just mentally?
6 months. It was beautiful. I'm not gonna be like everyone else and say that it was completely bad. I think I gave myself about like 2 weeks. I cried, you know what I'm saying? Cried, dealt whatever emotion I had. And then after 2 weeks, it was kind of like, all right, well, you know what to do, and that's kind of how my mind went from there, So for me, it's not even about the time off. It was much needed, man. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of things going on in life, and everything just worked out. Like I needed it, so that's why I'm more grateful.
I think it's something you don't even have to say. It takes a different mindset to fight your way to the UFC's octagon. But we're in a time now, Jamal, where I think, honestly, getting the call the first go around to the UFC might be easier than getting the call back to return to the UFC. Do you think that's a fair statement?
It gives or take. You know what I mean? I have strong faith in myself, and I did it once. You know what I mean? I got there when I wasn't expecting to get there at all. So I was already retired, kind of, and then I came off the couch, and you get presented with an opportunity to go to the UFC, you kind of just take it and get off the couch. So a lot of times people don't understand. When I was in the UFC, I was just trying to find me again. And figure out, like, I know I love the sport. I know I wanted to do this, but you get to the UFC and you're like, oh, damn, I actually have to step it up. So I think a little bit now it's going to be maybe harder, might be easier. Who knows? At the end of the day, man, I just keep my head down and I just been working and training. So, I let life and God handle the rest.
Well, I think there's always going to be a need for heavyweights. This is a
They're
division
slow.
that
They're slow and
the
they're trash.
lifespan, I think, well, I mean, they don't go away
hmm
generally. You know what I
hmm
mean? Just this is probably one of the few divisions you can have a 15 to potentially, almost 20-year career in. Now, you come back, you fight on Tuff-N-Uff in August, and you pull out the submission. We've never seen you win a fight at the pro level with a submission before. What was that like? And did you expect to win that fight by submission?
Honestly, no. I really just don't have any expectations now. I think right now, man, no one really expects me to do anything in the sport. So I think that's kind of the good thing, And I think if you really watch my career for a long time, people forget, man, I have a long jiu-jitsu and wrestling background. I come from Joe Daddy Stevenson, man, and all the guys he put me under, like Brandon Shelton and Mark Munoz down at Team Rain, and all these guys for years, man, the Juan Archuletas and being in the wrestling rooms. People don't get like how long my background is, when it comes to jiu-jitsu and wrestling. Um, for me, I'm just trying to see whatever's open, whatever the guy gives me and whatever happens, I'm just gonna take it.
You say names that bring me great joy there, Jamal. I've been covering the sport for a very long time. Joe Stevenson, I think he's first fought when he was like 16 years old and King of the Cage, and obviously won the Ultimate Fighter 2 way back in 2005. Have you? I mean, obviously Joe's going to rub off on you on the mat with skills and techniques for fighting, but one of the things that I think Joe knows better than anybody is the rigors of fighting mentally. Has Joe talked to you at all about how to have this mindset for fighting at this point in your career?
Honestly, man, I learned a lot. What I learned from Joe the most is what not to do. You know what I mean? That and that's no disrespect to that man. It was easier for him to tell me what not to do and where he failed and where he went wrong in his career, and so for me it was okay, well, not to do that. Okay, don't do this. I might have still fell into some things, as you go through the sport, but that's one of the biggest things is when you got someone telling you what not to do, right? And that's where I would say the biggest lessons came from, And another thing was just the drilling part, drill, drill, drill. You know what I mean? And that's probably what I took from him was just stay in the gym and just drill. A lot of guys don't understand how much drills pay the bills. So that's also what I took from Joe. So it's good and bad at the same time. It's 50-50.
I mean, Joe Daddy Stevenson sounded like my dad. My dad always said, Jamal, do as I say, not as I do. Because my dad, he did some questionable things in his time.
Yeah, that's what Joe was. Joe was that guy who was like that older mentor who was like, a little bit outside the game at that point when I first got in contact with him. And then, from there it was, you got to learn a lot, but he exposed me to a lot of things, very early. So that's what I'm more grateful for.
You talk about drilling, and I think the heavyweight division. You guys can't go in there and spar 100% every day. You're heavyweights.
Mhm.
That's going to shorten your career. I believe you're 30 years old. Is that correct?
Just turned 30, yeah.
So what does training look like, for you now and moving forward? Because, 30, they say it's the new 20, but I also think that you gain a lot of, knowledge in how to, treat yourself in fighting. When you're in your 20s, a lot of people just go, pardon the phrase, balls to the wall, but then they hit 30 and they're like, okay, I need to, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, and that's what it is, man. It's the experience. People forget that, like, I know I just turned 30 and I got so much experience. I learned so much early on. I had a lot of big fights when people look into my career. Your debut, I think at Bellator was 22 against a top 10 guy named Jordan Young. 23, you're fighting on Contender Series for the first time. 26, you fight Contender Series the second time. It's so much experience, and I think that's what I'm grateful of, being in my spot, is just turning 30 and realizing, like, hey, man, I got like 26, 27 fights under my belt from amateur to pro. I have so many jiu-jitsu tournaments under my belt, and I got so much experience, so I think that's kind of what's going to change the difference, I think, moving on into my 30s.
Yeah, I'm looking at your record, Jamal. I mean, it's long spanning. I gotta scroll up and down the computer page. It doesn't just fit all on one page. And I'm looking at it. It's like high profile shows. Contender Series, obviously. Fighting on the or fighting outside of the UFC before that. There were cameras in your face. You're still headlining a regional event coming up this Friday. But I feel like, no offense to Tuff-N-Uff, but the pressure might not be on you. Yes, it's a title fight, and yes, I said getting back to the UFC is very difficult. But just talking to you, Jamal, it seems like you have a proper mindset of like this isn't really all in my hands. I don't need to put this big amount of pressure on myself. It seems like you're doing it just for you.
Yeah, it was like I said, man, you learn a lot. When I was in the UFC, people don't understand the pressure that I had in the UFC.
Yeah.
I signed at 26. I had to take care of a kid that wasn't mine. My mom had cancer. I just moved to Vegas. And I'm trying to settle in Vegas, find a team, and I got to raise a kid, and I got to start working now because the sponsors ain't the same. So it was a lot of stuff that I would say happened to me. But it was beautiful. So to me, coming back into the sport, it was I had to figure out my why. So I
Mm.
think that was a beautiful part about this past year, I guess you would say, from being released. You sit there and you realize, like, man, I've been through every single worst possible thing that can happen to you in the sport. Whatever you can think of, it probably happened to me. So to me was, do we still keep going or do we not? Right. And then it was like, well, shit, let's just go, man. Like, I realized I didn't have that much tears, you know what I mean? After I did all the crying, it was just like, well, let's just go on. We already know what to expect and we already know what to move forward, and that's the part about the experience I have, is I know what to be expected. I know who to deal with, and I know how to deal with the certain pressures. And don't think I'm not nervous now, man. I'm very nervous, man. That dude's tough, man. I'm looking at his PFL fights. He's a tough wrestler. And that doesn't mean that I don't believe in my wrestling and my jiu-jitsu, but I understand how tough he is. He's willing to take a big shot and force a takedown. And guess what? Like, I changed my career around because the fact that all I did was wrestle and grapple. And then they said they wanted more stand-up, so, and it was kind of like, I had to change my game around. So to me, it goes full circle, man. It's how you deal with the situation, how you deal with the pressure, and right now it's just staying calm, take it day by day, hour by hour, and whatever happens, man, on Friday is going to happen. But I just know that I put in the work, and I left. I gave everything I had in this camp. Not even just this camp, this whole year. Like,
Mm.
I bust my butt so much. People are going to see how much I leaned up this year, how much weight I lost, and I'm back, man. So I'm just kind of excited to see. I'm excited for myself, man, to see what I'm gonna do on Friday night.
Yeah, you vie for Tuff-N-Uff heavyweight gold. It's the final Tuff-N-Uff of 2025. You're in the main event against a gentleman whose name we have yet to say, Ty Flores. He'll be standing across the cage from you. How much have you looked into Ty?
I did. I watched him. I respect everybody, man. I'm not like the rest of these guys. I respected him. I watched his fights. I seen some of the things I was actually impressed with. I seen some things I
Mhm.
wasn't impressed with. He can say the same thing about me, right? We can go back and forth and have this little bickering moment if you want to, but when you start to look at the game the way I'm starting to look at the game now, it's kind of like, man, he's tough. He's tough. He's a veteran, man, and he's been out for a while. He's hungry. Like, what? You don't think this dude's not about to come out? He's been out for like a year. You know what I mean? So this dude's hungry, right? I would love to see how he prepared his body for heavyweight, right? Because I didn't do it the right way. So again, like I'm not. It's just like I would love to see a lot of these things. Like I got to reverse a lot of the things I messed up on. Again, I was retired.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And then I came out of retirement and came back fighting. So again, man, it's a tough fight. I'm excited for it. It's kind of made Vegas my hometown. So, you know, a lot of people are excited to come see me. So that's really what it comes down to, man. I'm just excited to get out there.
You know, I'm looking at the bio online. It said you rocked the nickname Stormtrooper, but now I'm seeing you're being dubbed Victorville's Crash Out. Is that correct?
Yeah, you know, I think Stormtrooper came to me because it was like the beginning of my career, and I was wild, man. I was young, you know. I'm a black dude from the ghetto, so I used to just go after everybody. And then they were like, "Bro, like you don't care how much you destroy things." That's why they call me Stormtrooper. But I think over the years, you know, obviously people just looking at me and they're just like, "Man, that name don't fit you. That name don't fit you." And then I think just honestly, this past year, man, just how I've been training and how I've been, just my mindset to everything and how I've been going through life. And they were like, and to me, I'm just finally just releasing all the pain I went through in life and fighting, you know. So that's why it's like that crash out moment, right? But I'm from Victorville, so I never want people to forget where I'm from, you know. So I gotta be the one to put my city on, and I gotta be the one to, you know, to do it for us. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, between the cities of Victorville and Las Vegas, where you have supporters as well, it
Yeah.
sounds like it's going to be a pretty loud crowd there.
It's gonna be a loud crowd, you know, and that's the part that I get. It's a blessing, you know. That's what I got to remind myself. It's a blessing to be here. It's never, you know. We can always look at it like, oh my gosh, it's a title fight, it's this and that, man. But it's a blessing, you know. I shed a lot of tears. I cried. I worked my butt off, and then, you know, when opportunities, you know, come like this, you got to step up to those moments. You know, you can't run and hide, you know. And I think that's what I've done a lot, not just in my career, but just in my life. When those big moments came, it was so much stuff going on the outside where I really couldn't focus, you know. And people don't understand that either. So I think I put myself in a good position within the last 4.5 years where I just start really just dealing with my life and taking care of those problems. And, you know, fighting definitely got easier from that point on.
Yeah, I don't think people realize it doesn't matter, you know, how badass you are in the cage. Life's going to beat you up sometimes. It's the toughest fight of our lives.
Life's gonna whoop you, you know what I mean? And I had to learn those lessons the hard way, but by myself. But it's okay, you know. And I think that's the beauty part of it, where now I'm becoming my own fan and I'm becoming my own hero, my own story, and I love the fact that, you know, things are written the way it is. You know, it's my story. I get to write it, and I'm still writing it. So, and I think whoever put a period at the end of it, they need to put a comma because I'm not done yet. So let's just figure out what's gonna be next. You know what I mean? And from there, you know, after Tough, I don't know what's next, but you know what? I'm not gonna stop, man. And I came too far. I've done too much. I came too far, and I'm still so young in the sport. You know, I just turned 30, and like you said, you had to go up the whole list, and that's just before 30. And you know what I mean? I have a whole person's career right now with 26, 27 fights, you know what I mean? And that's their career. So to me, it's just, you know, finding that new motivation and finding that new edge to keep going. And that's pretty much it.
Well, you rock that Stormtrooper nickname, and at the beginning, I think, of every Star Wars movie, it says the saga continues, and I guess the saga continues for you
It's
coming
a new
up Friday
chapter.
night.
It's a new
Yeah,
chapter, man. It's
new
a
chapter.
new person. It's a new man. And that's what people don't get, you know. It's a new person out there. I'm trying things a little bit differently with the experience I have, and I'm just trusting myself a little bit more. You know, I know what not to do now. So, you know, again, when you look at the bio I put on there, I right my wrongs. You know, that's kind of what my life is right now. I'm gonna right my wrongs. You know, I know I did a lot in this sport, but I also know where I went wrong in this sport. So right now, it's time to just right my wrongs and then see where life takes me at this point.
All right. Well, it's about what not to do at times, but this case, it's about what to do. And people at home right now, what you need to do, make sure you sign up for UFC Fight Pass and check out Jamal Pogues. He's in action this Friday night as he vies for Tuff-N-Uff heavyweight gold. Jamal, appreciate the time. Best of luck, sir. And
Thank you so
we'll
much.
be watching.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.